Clever marketing campaigns have made us believe that some foods are healthier for us than they are. So, in an effort to be happier, healthier and slimmer, we spend a lot of money on them. But is it all just a marketing ploy? And are some of these foods making achieving our health goals even harder? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you some surprises and hopefully save you some dollars along the way too. If you're new here, I'm Maria and I'm a registered dietitian. Welcome to the channel. Now, I want to start here by saying that this is not a list of 8 foods that you should never ever eat. My goal is simply to help you as a consumer make a more informed choice, so you're not being taken advantage of by these marketing companies. I'm not here to demonize any food. So if you do want to still include some of these foods, I will give you some tips to help you do so. Now, what I'm seeing a lot lately is recipes online using coconut sugar, or it could be raw honey, molasses, or nectars. And these are all as alternatives to your regular sugar or your castor sugar. And a lot of health influencers and wellness sites will lead you to believe that these recipes, using more natural sweeteners, are better than their regular counterparts. Like a cookie made with coconut sugar is better than your regular cookie. And yes, these ingredients may be less processed, but natural sweeteners increase blood sugar and contain calories just like table sugar. These ingredients are also often much more expensive and quite difficult to find. Let's take coconut sugar as an example. Coconut sugar undergoes little processing, so it does retain some of the natural vitamins, minerals, fiber, and antioxidants. But the nutrients in coconut sugar are still unlikely to have any health impact unless you're eating very, very large amounts. And at that point, any benefit will be outweighed by the fact that you're eating loads of sugar. So the takeaway here is that coconut sugar has the same amount of calories as table sugar, refined or not. And all of these products still contain free or added sugars, the ones that we're already eating too much of. Now, I'm not saying that you can't use it. Do use it if you like the taste or it works in your particular recipe, but you should treat it in the same way as any other sugar and use it sparingly. I'm going to pause here and ask that if you're enjoying the video so far, I would really appreciate it if you hit the red subscribe button below. It really helps support my channel. And if you're looking for healthy, high protein recipes, I'd recommend following me over on Instagram. Now, there's no denying that plant-based meats and meat alternatives are all of the rage right now. Take one stroll through your local grocery store and you'll see everything from fake chicken nuggets to soy-based burgers and vegan sausages. And while cutting down on your meat consumption overall can be good for your health, and please note that I said cutting down, you don't necessarily need to cut out. It's important to be aware that these products are not always as healthy as they may seem. And many of these packaged vegetarian or vegan foods are made for people who have not yet mastered the art of plant-based cooking. And because of this, they often don't fare better in the sodium or the fat department than their meat counterparts. Some manufacturers add a lot of salt to make them taste good. And coconut oil is also a common ingredient, which I'll touch on later. And not only that, but they are typically highly processed, containing many additives and ingredients. Many of them can also be surprisingly calorie dense and low in protein. So if your goal is weight loss, a simple chicken breast can often be the better choice. But because these foods have the term vegan on them by association, many people tend to think that they are healthier. For example, one Beyond Burger contains 285 calories and 19 grams of protein, whereas one grilled chicken breast might come in at 150 calories and 25 grams of protein. And even the American Heart Association recommends considering beans and legumes as a healthier vegetarian protein source. So while a plant-based diet is healthy, eating a lot of these processed vegetarian foods, as opposed to actual vegetables, isn't always the best option. I would recommend focusing on obtaining the majority of plant proteins from less processed sources, such as different types of beans, lentils, and chickpeas. This will ensure that you can truly benefit from eating a more plant-based diet. Now, bread is another very sneaky one where food marketeers and food companies can take advantage of us. So most people who are trying to improve their health will know that opting for a higher fibre whole grain bread is the better option, and they will set out to do so. Well, it's not always as easy as you may think. And even I myself as a dietitian have bought bread in the past thinking that it was whole grain, and then later coming home and realizing that it was not. So one of the first common mistakes, if you buy bread and it's called multi-grain or multi-seed, you're probably thinking, yes, definitely healthy, all of these different grains. But actually, by legal definition, this bread can just be a white bread with a few grains or a few seeds sprinkled on top. It's the whole in whole grain. That means the manufacturers use the entire grain. And that's where we get our fibre. Whereas the multi in multigrain refers to how many types of grain they use. But multigrain breads are not always whole grain. Now, the second mistake here is that although a bread may be called wholemeal or whole grain, it may be in fact made with 50% white flour or even more, and just have a small amount of whole grain in it. And number 3, sometimes the bread is white, but it looks brown because they've added in some dyes or something else to make it look darker than it really is. So how do we figure out which one to buy? The first place that I want you to look is at the ingredients list. And the first ingredient on the nutrition label, it should be whole grain flour, wholemeal flour, or whole wheat flour. If the first ingredient is just wheat flour on its own, then it's not a whole wheat bread. Another way to check if the bread is a good source of fibre is to check how much fibre it contains. You want to choose a bread with at least 2 to 3 grams of fibre per serving. Or some nutrition labels will show you the nutrition information per 100 grams. And if a loaf contains 6 grams of fibre per 100 grams or more, then it is considered high fibre and a good choice. Now, to avoid confusion, because I'm always asked about this, whole grain and wholemeal are basically the same thing. Wholemeal is simply the name that is given to whole grains after they have been ground down to form a flour. Now, whole grain can be a whole grain of any type of grain, like whole wheat, whole barley, or whole oats, whereas whole wheat is specifically whole wheat. So basically, whole wheat, whole grain, or wholemeal are all really good options. Now, if you have a bread label at home that you're unsure of, just comment below and I'll try my best to help, or send me a DM with the photo on Instagram. I'm also aware these nutrition labels can be confusing and difficult to remember, so I've packaged all this information into a little downloadable PDF, and I'll leave a link in the description box down below where you can get your hands on it for free. Now, plant-based milks are generally assumed to be healthier since they are not made from animal products. However, only one plant milk measures up nutritionally to the real stuff, and that is soy milk. Soy comes closest to cow's milk nutrition-wise. The others appear to be good for weight loss because they can be low in calories, but they're also really devoid of other nutrients. So for context, an 8-ounce glass of low-fat dairy milk has around 120 calories and 8 grams of protein, whereas a glass of unsweetened soy milk has around 70 to 80 calories and 7 to 9 grams of protein, so similar enough to cow's milk. However, the same glass of almond milk only has around 1 gram of protein, and the same serving of oat milk only contains around 3 grams of protein. So even though almond milks may have 30 to 60 calories, almost half of that compared to cow's milk, they're still not giving you very much to keep you satisfied. So say, for example, you had a bowl of cereal with cow's milk versus a bowl of cereal with almond milk. The bowl of cereal with the cow's milk is a much more balanced option, and it's likely to keep you feeling fuller for a lot longer. Another thing to be aware of is a lot of these plant milks can have added sugars, and they don't naturally contain the calcium, the B12, or the iodine that you would get in your regular dairy milk. And this is really important in terms of your bone health and your thyroid health too. Now, if you do still wish to choose one of these milks, maybe you're vegan or lactose intolerant, I would recommend, if you can, trying soy, because again, that will have more protein, opting for unsweetened versions, and choosing a plant milk that has been fortified with added calcium, vitamin D, and the other nutrients that you're going to be missing. Don't choose an organic plant milk, because organic will mean that they can't add in any of these other vitamins or minerals. And before you use your plant milk, make sure you give the carton a really good shake, because sometimes the added in nutrients can sink to the bottom of the cardboard and settle there, and then you're not going to be getting the benefit. Now, coconut oil has become increasingly popular, particularly with the rise of the keto and the paleo diet, but you may want to think twice before cooking with it. While it is marketed as a heart-healthy option, coconut oil is in fact 80 to 90% saturated fat, and saturated fat is the one that we know can raise our LDL cholesterol, which is the one we want to keep low. And the American Heart Association recommends limiting your daily saturated fat intake to a maximum of 13 grams. And 1 tablespoon of coconut oil has about 11 grams, which is way more than common cooking oils, like canola oil or extra virgin olive oil. My recommendation is that coconut oil, it does have a distinct flavor, and it does pair well in Asian dishes and some baking recipes. So it's not that you can't ever use it, but it shouldn't be the default cooking oil that you have on your kitchen counter. Now, ketchup makes pretty much everything taste better. And although it might be made from tomatoes, 1 tablespoon of ketchup contains almost the equivalent of 1 teaspoon of sugar. And I don't know about you, but when I'm using ketchup, my portion control is definitely not the best. Now, little bits of ketchup here and there as a condiment are not going to wreak havoc on your health. But if you use it, like me, quite a lot, then that's probably a good reason for choosing a reduced sugar version, or trying to limit the amount you have when you do eat it. I'm thinking about doing a full video on sauces and condiments. Let me know in the comments below if you think that would be helpful. But there are many more brands on the market now doing lower sugar varieties. So there are good options there, and many of them taste pretty good too. Now, I was doing a nutrition analysis for a cafe menu recently, and it was mainly wraps, sandwiches, and salads. And to many people's surprise, the salads were amongst the highest calorie menu options. And many of us assume that salads are healthy. And don't get me wrong, they can be when they are made right. But sandwiches and wraps are often demonized because of the carbs. However, salads are not automatically healthful meals. Croutons, breaded meats, and creamy dresses can really turn them into calorie bombs. And if you're eating out in a restaurant, it's in their best interest to use a lot of dressing to make them taste good. And I also see a lot of people say that, well, because I've had a lighter salad for lunch, then I'm allowed to have that cookie afterwards. And sometimes some people just don't feel satisfied if they don't have that bread, especially if that's what you just really wanted to order in the first place. So just be careful here. If you are choosing a salad with the goal of saving calories, choose one with leaner meats and lighter dressings or vinaigrettes. Now, granola is an ever popular, versatile snack, breakfast, and even a dessert. And containing oats, nuts, and seeds, it seems like a healthy option. However, it is worth checking the label. Unfortunately, while granola does contain whole grains, it is usually a higher sugar choice due to the addition of honey, syrups, and sugar, in contrast to other oat-based cereals, like porridge, for example. Granola is also likely to contain added fat, so it's usually higher in energy, something to be aware of if you are trying to lose weight. And what's more, the fat that might be used may be something like coconut oil or palm oil, which, as I mentioned earlier, is a type of saturated fat. Alongside this, it's easy to consume a bigger portion than what's stated on the packaging. Now, I do love granola, and most people do, so I do want to provide some helpful tips. First, you can try mixing it with some low sugar whole grain cereal, so you still get the taste but less of the sugar. Or you could treat it as a topping rather than the main dish. For instance, sprinkling some over a bowl of Greek yogurt can go a long way, and you're adding in some extra protein here too. You could also watch your portion size by weighing it out or using a measure. Now, muesli also tends to be a good alternative that you could choose instead, or just make sure you're choosing a lower sugar version of the granola. It's also pretty easy to make yourself at home, and this way you can control the amount of sugar that's added and flavor it with calorie-free spices like cinnamon instead. Now, if you've made it this far in the video, I want to thank you by letting you know that I have a free recipe ebook, which I'll leave linked below in the description box. And comment below which point surprised you the most. Thank you very much for watching. Stay happy and healthy, and I'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching.